Title: 9 Animals with Intelligence That Defies Explanation. Best_fact, 2. Second_fact, 8. Short_hook, octopuses change color during sleep, showing the exact patterns they use when hunting. Short_hook_ 2, elephants feel each other's calls through their feet across distances of 32 kilometers. These 9 animals understand things they were never taught. In some cases, things that took humans years of formal study to work out. Clark's nutcrackers, Nuciforga columbiana, bury pine seeds across a range of up to 80 square kilometers before winter. A single bird creates up to 33,000 individual caches, each containing 3 to 5 seeds, in locations spread across terrain that changes significantly over the following months. Snowfall covers landmarks, vegetation shifts, and the landscape the bird buries and looks different from the one it returns to. Recovery rates in studies have been confirmed at approximately 70 to 90% over a full winter. The mechanism by which the bird encodes, retains, and retrieves tens of thousands of three-dimensional spatial locations across months and changing conditions is not fully understood, but is associated with a disproportionately enlarged hippocampus relative to other corvids. Octopuses exhibit a rapid eye movement-like sleep phase during which their skin changes color and texture dynamically, producing exactly the active camouflage patterns they display when hunting or threatened while awake. Camouflage sequences visible during active hunting can be observed playing across the skin during this sleep phase, including full-body pattern changes and localized flickers associated with specific predator response states. The patterns are complex enough that they have been interpreted by researchers as evidence of dream state processing. Octopuses have no centralized brain structure equivalent to the mammalian cortex, and the sleep state, recently documented in multiple species, was not predicted from their neuroanatomy. Ravens, Corvus corax, have been tested on deferred gratification tasks equivalent to those used in developmental psychology with human children. In experiments designed by Cabadei and Osvith, ravens traded tokens for rewards and successfully planned for future events up to 17 hours in advance, a timespan that exceeded the performance of great apes in comparable trials. They also pre-selected and stored tools they would need for a subsequent task in preference to an immediate food reward. Ravens in the wild have been documented waiting for specific individual wolves to open carcasses before approaching, tracking which wolves are most likely to create access, and following those individuals selectively. Chimpanzee Ayumu, tested at the Primate Research Institute in Kyoto, consistently outperforms all adult humans in a task where the numbers 1 through 9 appear briefly on a screen and are then replaced by white squares. The subject must touch the squares in the correct numerical order from memory. At 210 milliseconds of display time, below the threshold at which humans can reliably form a stable visual memory of the positions, Ayumu achieves approximately 90% accuracy. Human volunteers who trained specifically for this task over extended periods consistently fell below Ayumu's baseline performance. The working hypothesis is that chimpanzees retain a form of spatial photographic memory that was suppressed in the human lineage as language-based memory developed. The cleaner wrasse, Labroides mediatus, has passed the mirror self-recognition test, a standard used to infer self-awareness in animals, making it the smallest-brained vertebrate known to do so. When a brown mark was applied to the throat of fish that had previously observed themselves in a mirror, the fish directed scraping behaviors toward their own throat in response to seeing their reflection, not toward an apparent other fish. Prior to their own mark test, fish showed threat displays at the mirror. After extended mirror exposure, these stopped and were replaced with the self-directed behavior associated with mark recognition. The result, published in 2019, has not been unambiguously replicated and remains contested, but the original behavioral data has not been refuted. Jumping spiders of the genus Portia routinely solve detour problems that require abandoning visual contact with prey and traversing a path where the destination is not visible from the start. In documented cases, when the direct path to prey was blocked, the spider withdrew, selected the correct turn on a multi-branching overhead route, and arrived at the correct position relative to prey it could not see during the entire approach. The pre-departure assessment phase, during which the spider surveys the terrain without moving, can last up to 45 minutes. Their entire brain, including all optic processing, fits within less than 1 cubic millimeter of tissue. Honeybees trained on a symbolic rule, a blue stimulus meaning add 1 and yellow meaning subtract 1, subsequently applied this rule accurately to color sets they had never encountered before, confirming that they had acquired an abstract numerical operation rather than a fixed stimulus-response pairing. The study, published in Science Advances in 2019, placed the bees through multiple rounds of novel color combinations where the rule still applied but none of the specific combinations had appeared in training. Bees do not have a centralized numerical processing system analogous to the parietal cortex used in human arithmetic. The mechanism by which a brain containing fewer than 1 million neurons acquires and generalizes a symbolic mathematical rule is not established. African elephants detect low-frequency infrasound calls produced by other elephants through a second sensory channel, vibrations traveling through the ground. Research led by Caitlin O'Connell-Rodwell documented that elephants respond to seismic playbacks, vibrations delivered to the ground without any airborne component, at distances of up to 32 kilometers, orienting toward the signal source and performing characteristic investigative behaviors. The reception pathway involves Pacinian corpuscles in the soles of the feet, toenails, and proboscis tip, relaying vibrations via bone conduction through the leg and forearm bones to the inner ear. Elephants can also generate seismic signals by stamping and running, producing ground wave components distinct from airborne calls, and appear to selectively listen for these by freezing and shifting weight forward onto their feet. Killer whales, or Sinus orca, do not have uniform behavior across populations, they have cultures. Distinct populations have invented and transmitted population-specific hunting techniques. One North Atlantic group beaches itself to catch pinnipeds in behavior that no member was born knowing, that takes years of observed practice to learn, and that is absent in geographically adjacent populations with identical genetic profiles. Pod-specific dialect differences in calls accumulate over generations. When an individual's pod goes extinct, its dialect goes with it. A 2022 study on Pacific pods documented a new foraging behavior, targeting the livers of blue sharks, spreading from one individual through a social network of associated pods over less than 5 years, meeting the epidemiological criteria for a cultural transmission event. 9 animals. 9 forms of understanding that should not fit inside the brains they were found in. Tomorrow's animal does something that should be physically impossible. This channel posts a new animal fact video every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.